And the first game that we are going to talk about tonight is the Green Bay Packers game, beating the Chicago Bears. Your team, Adam, beating them 20-19. Packers go 7-3 with the Bears now at 4-6. Obviously, your team, I mean, you've lived to tell the tale. You've survived. The heart didn't give out or give way, I suppose. A dramatic ending to the game as well, with a blocked field goal that sent the Packers whapping.
Another long game. Every game with this team this season has been a long game.
It feels like you're not happy, but you won in a way.
Yeah, it was kind of one of them where it's not, I suppose, for the long haul, it's not particularly promising. It kind of felt it was very hard going. The offense, especially Jordan Love, kind of struggled a little bit to get things going. We've got another interception that he's had where it just feels like every game he's going to throw one. That just seems to be. It's very. I think the one thing we can all definitely say now for Packers fans, they should have all realised by now that this is very much Brett Favre rather than Aaron Rodgers. This is, you're going to get the boom, you're going to get the bust a little bit.
I actually put in my notes that Love's interception avoidable, but he's a gunslinger, and you're going to get that. You are just going to get that. You've got to live with that. And sometimes, like you said, it is absolutely sensational, and sometimes you get that.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is, and that's not necessarily a criticism on him. It's just that's how he plays. So you kind of have to accept it, and that's fair enough. More often than not, it works out. So you can't really have a go at him for it. But yeah, it was a long, a bit of a slog. Never really felt like they were in control of the game. I would say it kind of felt like it was very sort of like swinging 50-50 a lot of the time. I have to say, I think the Bears were loads better than what they have been. Clearly, conversations have been had since Shane Waldron's been gone, and that there's been a change. DJ Moore getting much more involved, getting the ball out much quicker, and just generally letting Caleb Williams run a little bit as well. That was the other thing. So I think it was a vastly improved offense, and so there is a lot of promise, I think, for Bears fans. That's what they've got to take out of it, despite the loss. And but yeah, I mean, just felt like a long old slog, but another win. And I suppose at the end of the day, my argument is always, if you're playing badly and winning, you can't be doing too bad. So I think that's how you've got to look at it a little bit. But for the long term, for going into the playoffs and things like that, which the Packers need to be looking at as kind of a regular thing now with Jordan Love, it does make you worry when you see teams like the Eagles and how well they are progressing throughout the season. And then there are other teams as well that just generally, the Lions obviously looking amazing, and there's a couple of teams like maybe not so great.
The Vikings in division.
The Vikings look all right. I know the Falcons really struggled last night, but they are a team that previously had looked pretty good, and you would expect them to win their division now. There are some okay teams, and you just sort of feel like they could come up against something where if they have one of these games where it doesn't really hit, then they might struggle.
I mean, when I looked at your box score, the only thing you won in really was penalties. You had 3 to Chicago.
Oh, we're good for a penalty. We've always been good for a penalty.
Well, no, you only got 3 and Chicago got 7. So you actually did well there. You were pretty good. That was the only thing in the box score where you did well. Like, everything else was very comparable to Chicago. It was also the most rushing yards you've had on this defense this year with this season with 179. Best Christian Watson performance, though, this season. And I have to say, that is, I think, what everyone enjoys about the Packers is the dynamic wide receiver room that you have. And I think it's actually what gives teams headaches, is that you can't really plan for which one's going to come out and dominate, Watson or Dobbs or Reed, or if they use the tight end more, I'm sure I'm missing that, or if they then concentrate on using Josh Jacobs, which they've not really done in that many games this season where it's been all through him, I suppose. It's not like it was at the Raiders where he was utilised a lot more, I suppose. They're sort of putting a bit of a count on it. But when you've got an arm like Love, you're going to use that, aren't you? And like you said, it is the boom or bust that you're going to have, and it makes for exciting football. It's cool. It is fun football, and I'm sure for as Packers fan, it is a bit of a. If you had hair to tear out, you would maybe tear it out on occasion, But for other Packers fans with more follicles going, I'm sure there's patches because he can be so amazing, and yet he can be so frustrating all at the same time. But I think he's progressed. We're forgetting he didn't play properly for a fair few seasons. And this is almost in his progression era, I suppose. He's not. Josh Allen had the same problems, in them years, and Love will get there eventually, and it's going to be a few drafts. And I think you're going to be definitely a playoff team in my eyes.
Yeah.
There is going to have to be progression in certain areas, and sometimes things don't. The defense you had a couple of years ago that was really, really solid, and you kept building and putting depth in. Had that complementary offense, whereas now it's feeling very evenly like we're progressing on both levels with the defense and the offense, even though I think defense is good and I think this offense is good, but both do have moments of making mistakes, don't they? On the Bears side of it, I think the knock-on of Waldron going, we saw it with the head coach Saints. We saw it with the Saints. They had their head coach fired and they bounced back with a win, didn't they? Like I think that's what it was always going to happen. I mean, they kept toe-to-toe with you in this game all the way through. And, even when Caleb he's not finding the passing touchdowns just yet. I mean, his wide receivers are good with Allen and Odunze and Moore. And I truly think this offense and this defense has got something. They have both got something. I mean, I've watched a few podcasts in the last few weeks, and the calls for Caleb being a bust have been very ringing true. But I don't see that. I don't see it being a bust. I see it as situational with this team. They've got the building blocks here to get something going. It's just about progression.
Yeah, I think it's been. I understand why there's been that accusation leveled at him, the idea that he is a bit of a bust and stuff like that. But I think it's one of them things where you do have to remember that he's a rookie. I don't care how well he did in college; he is still a rookie in the NFL, and so it is difficult. And we're not going to
a rookie with no O-line.
No, I mean, that is the other thing. Now, a lot of people will come out and go, yeah, but he didn't have an O-line in college. It's like, yeah, but it doesn't matter. It's the NFL. Totally it's a completely different thing. So it's like you need that O-line to be stronger. And they have been pretty poor most of this season. Mm-hmm. The wide receivers are good wide receivers. The problem has been the play calling. And you saw that in this one. You need to keep it simple. Look at what Bo Nix is doing. When you actually look at what Bo Nix is doing and Sean Payton is doing, there's not actually anything that complicated in it. It's kind of quite basic. You've got a solid run game to help you out, and it's just generally pretty decent, basic offensive play. And when you're getting that right, you can then sprinkle in the other stuff after that, because once he started working that out, and look at how well the Broncos are doing with this Bears team, you have got the offense to do that. They are there. Yes, the O-line is a massive problem and it needs sorting out. And, during last year's draft, they had that opportunity to go out and get themselves a really good O-line person, but they went for Rome Odunze at number 9 instead. And maybe they're regretting that a little bit. They could have stayed with DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, Cole Kmet could have been used more. Do you really need 3 wide receivers? But maybe at the same time you look at it and go, this is a learning year. We're not expecting him to do much anyway. Let's then, this year go out and get one of the best O-line guys that we can get, and then that will help you. So I think a lot of the problem has been play calling. That's been the real issue. And you saw that in this game where the ball was coming out loads quicker. DJ Moore was just there a lot of the time. He was getting no targets in a lot of these games before. He got, say, 5, 6 targets. He had 7 receptions for 62. That's what you need to do. And it's like there's clearly that he's got a rapport with Rome Odunze. That's clear to see. But the thing is, there's no point in just throwing it to Roma Dunze all the time. You got to move it across to everyone. And I think seeing that, having more people getting involved, having Keenan Allen getting involved. Okay, maybe you're not getting loads of touchdowns, but you're just changing things up a bit and keeping it simple, but changing it up on the receivers. And I think that will help them. And then if they can get that run game going as well, great. And he can be a part of that because he's got the legs to do it. So I think there is promise for him.
They've not had a bad run game this year with DeAndre. I mean, I've
No,
got
not
DeAndre in
awful.
fantasy football. Been pretty decent, to be fair. But like, I think the idea of it was, if we give him loads of talent, then he can just sling it up and one of them will get it. And it's like, well, no, it's a bit more idiosyncrasies to it than that. Like, it's a little bit more. You got to give that guy, a fighting chance within this league if he is going to succeed.